Hey everyone, you can see my shirt. I'm Nikki Haverstock. I'm a self-published author with 14 or 15 or something cozy mysteries up on Amazon, and this is the author 2 portion of my channel. And today I am going to discuss with my little notes labels, specifically writing labels. So there's a bigger discussion about labels in the rest of the world. I'm not getting into that. I'm talking just about writing labels and ways it can help you to use labels to describe yourself and ways that it can hold you back. So when I talk about labels, I am talking about things like I'm a plotter, I'm a pantser, I'm a fast writer, I'm a slow writer, I'm a heavy rewriter, I edit as I go, whatever it is that you describe your process of writing. So if you're not familiar with these terms, so a plotter is someone who plans out their book prior to writing it. A pantser sort of figures it out as they go along. It can also be called instinct writing. Plotters, there's a million different plotting methods, a billion. There's snowflake method, hero's journey, a traditional 3-act structure. There's save the cat. And of course, a lot of these are subcategories of other categories. Some of them would say the hero's journey is save the cat, whatever. Okay. Most people that I encounter realistically start somewhere kind of in the middle. I don't know many people who, some people do, they write 20 pages of plot outline. Basically that's their zero draft. I know people who know nothing, you know, or I'm not inside their heads, so I don't really know. Most people though are kind of in the middle. I think I'm a person, you know, maybe you know certain things, maybe some people have to know or say that they have to write in order, out of order, whatever. So there are some ways that labels can help. So kind of knowing roughly what labels, I'm going to start with help you, is it can help you cull through the mountains and mountains and mountains of advice. And what I mean is if you have a general sense, like for me, I'm not really a heavy duty plotter, I'm not a heavy duty pantser. So if I meet someone who goes, oh, I usually know a few things before I start, that might be someone whose advice I can dive into and see if there's something useful. That if someone goes, oh, I never know anything and I just write and I write out of order and I'm a heavy rewriter, I will still listen to that person. But if you have, there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of books and this and that. And so kind of knowing what your system is and knowing what it's called can help you cull through all the advice and get a general sense of, is this advice, should I start here and see if it's more useful? When I encounter someone who uses a lot of the same terminology about how they work, when they say, oh, I try this, I might want to try it. I might put that at the top of my list of things to try. It's not a guarantee it'll work, but that can do it. So labels can help you kind of sift through the advice. So think of it as if you were at a convention, conference, writing conference, whatever, and you had to pick between 2 seminars. The one that uses labels similar to yours might be a better place to start. That's all I'm saying. So that is one way you can do it. It can help you categorize your past successes. So once you've written a few books or short stories or whatever, and you feel like you've started to notice trends, you can start to say, I always need to know who the killer is before I start. And this can help you replicate some of your successes. I'm going to get into, I'm using a lot of language about, you know, more likely and stuff because I'm going to get into why it can hurt you. But the idea is that if I know that I always need to know what the crime is before I start my murder mystery, then next time I'm hung up, I can say, you know, I normally know what the crime is before I start my murder mystery. I don't know this time. Maybe that's why I'm stuck. Some people have to know the name. It's really important to them for their main character. I always know the main character's name because I do a series, and that's one of the earlier parts. But some people have to know who the killer is. Some people don't. A lot of really great authors will say that they don't know, and neither does their sleuth really know, and it becomes apparent as they write it. It ends up being only one person could have done it, or sometimes they're as surprised as everyone else. So that can help you categorize your past successes so you can understand moving forward what you are more likely to need. And then sometimes labels are just good because it's nice to know that you're doing it right. And what I mean is there's a lot of people I know who feel like they're doing it wrong because until they discovered there's a label for what they do. And then it's very freeing because they go, oh, you mean other successful writers do it the way I do it? And not only that, but they, there's a name for it. That can be very freeing, especially if you come up through whatever community you come up through. If everyone is doing it one way and you're doing it differently, it can feel like you're doing it wrong. I'm putting wrong and right or quotations around them because if you finish the book and you're mentally healthy at the end of it, you've done it right. That's how it works. It's just, the goal is that you finish a book. And as much as there's all these teachers and in books and blogs and YouTube channels like me who tell you how to do it, if you can do it at the end, and I always say mentally healthy because there's a lot of unhealthy, if you come out of it mentally unhealthy, we need to diagnose what's going on here because you should be able to come out of it. And it can be really hard, but not in a way that throws you into a deep depression or so much anxiety you can't sleep or something, whatever it is. So labels can also help you feel like you're doing it right because you share that. So they can be hurtful though, because there can be times when a story is telling you it needs to be written a certain way because of how you've thought of it, and you fight against that because it doesn't fit your labels. So in general, I mentioned, I plot. I hit a couple high points, everything in between, I'm going to figure it out as I go along. But I've completely pantsed books. After I had my son, I was really scared. My whole life had been pre-baby. And so I was worried, can I do it again? Your brain is mush, your emotions are mush, everything's a mess. Can I do this post-baby? And I just sat down and just wrote. No plan, didn't know where I was going, wrote the story of my heart, and just kind of pants the whole thing. So there are times, and you'll meet other people who are traditionally pantsers, but they have this whole book just kind of comes to them. And so they kind of know the whole book ahead of time, and they go, well, this is not how I normally work. Maybe there's something wrong with it. So don't let your labels fight against your instinct. This is not, and when I say instinct, what I mean is internally how you're feeling. I'm not talking about other people coming in and telling you have to do it. You have to do it this way. You have to do it that way. And so you go, I don't want to do it this way. It doesn't feel normal, doesn't feel natural, but I'm going to do it because everybody's telling me if I plot, I will write faster, for example. So, you've made a reputation as you're the pantser on YouTube, or you're the pantser of your writing group. It can be uncomfortable to go against what you internally feel. Okay, the other thing is it can cut you off from advancing, it can limit your growth, it can come excuses. I kind of said it a couple different ways. And when I mean growth, I don't necessarily mean that I do not mean that evolving from a pantser to a plotter is evolution and that is how it always works, or that going from plotting to pantsing, or fast to slow, or slow to fast. These are all things that like therapy, you can only dig into if this is an advancement. But there are times, first of all, I know a lot of people who've written 10, 20, I've written 15 books. None of those books have looked identical in their process. Meaning that I've had books where the only thing I knew is who the killer was. I've had books where I didn't know who the killer was until the last page. And the last clue fell into place and only one person was left. I had a short story. I didn't know if the person actually died or lived until the end. But I've written 15 books. I know people who've written 50 books, 100 books. And if you say, was your process identical for every book? The ones I know. Now, you might be able to say someone has written their book identical every single time. I don't know those people. Most people will say there's a lot of similarities, but in general, they will say most of my books were written this way. Mostly the beginning, for me, mostly the beginning and end are quick and the middle takes forever. Mostly. But I've had books where I've done 500 500 words a day the whole way through. I've done them where I've written a third of the book in the last week. I've had them where every variation you can imagine. You get the idea. So there are times that as you write, your process will evolve. And if you hold too tightly to those labels, you can stop that evolution. It can also become excuses. So you've met someone who says, oh, I'm late to everything and everyone knows that about me. And you start to go, okay, you're not even trying. You're not even trying to show up on time. And we've all known people who were never physically active, okay? And then in their 40s, discovered weightlifting and became a big weightlifter. I'm not talking about weight, I'm talking about working out. So, and then all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, what do you mean you work out? Your new hobby is working out. You've never worked out. And they go, well, I guess I do now. So, don't let your labels become excuses to where you never try anything new or anything like that, okay? And then the last one is that sometimes they can be really hurtful because you don't fit a label. There is no label to describe it. And just like I said that labels can make you feel like you're a real writer, lack of labels can make you feel like you're doing it wrong. So I have two friends, Zoe York, who has an amazing YouTube channel. Everybody says it's an amazing channel. And my friend Zara Keene, who the three of us are in a writing group who talk almost every day. And recently we discovered that even though they do practically everything different in every possible way, they both do the same thing, which is after they write roughly the first third of the book, they have to go and edit it, because that for both of them is the foundation of the house, and they go and they edit it. And it was like shocking because they share nothing else the same. I've never heard someone discuss this. I thought that you either got to the end of the book and edited, or edited as you went along, a less popular option, but I had never heard this, I have to rewrite. And then when I went and I looked, I said, you know, I don't do that, but I will stop and fix my outline after about that amount. But neither one of them kind of realized it, because there was never like oh, are you a first, third re-editor? So that kind of thing. And so both of them had been kind of fighting this, and then it kind of came up, and it turned out they both did it, and then they both went, you know what? This is a great system for me. This works. I let my editor know that I will send her the first third of my book, and we will edit it and get it right before we move on. So sometimes the labels can hurt you because you think, well, I have to fit in box A or box B, and you have to actually create a box C and go, this is what I do, and this is how it works. And one of the biggest mistakes I see, this is sort of an overarching theme I see with people, is that they think because that they're doing it wrong, what the process that's necessary to produce a good book is inherently wrong because it just doesn't look like other people's things. So a lot of people, they try to cut out the part of their process that makes their book good. Does that make sense? So it's very common. Here's a really good example from my process. It's really common that I will stop in the middle and need a day or two to think and to hash things out. And I've tried very hard to if I just did X, I wouldn't need that. But what if that is the key? That is the in the recipe, the part that says leave at a rolling boil for an hour. Maybe that's my rolling boil for an hour, okay? And so I've started to accept that that's part of my process. That's part of what makes it good. You might be a heavy rewriter because you have to, Neil Gaiman talks about, well, a lot of people talk about the first draft is like putting all the sand in the sandbox so that later on you can make a castle. Neil Gaiman also says the first draft, the second draft is making you, the first draft you write the story you discover what the story is, and the second draft is making it look like you did it on purpose. A lot of people have very messy processes, and you need to embrace that. So why don't you hit me up in the comments and tell me what labels, how you feel about labels. Do you use any? Have you broken away from the tyranny of labels? If you have labels that you want, You're welcome to share them. Just promise me that you will always be open to the fact that those labels are fluid and that you might change over time. Okay, bye.